Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Ravens flock, listen, I understand that there have been a lot of concerns regarding the Ravens in terms of their coaching staff, the offensive play calling, the execution. There have been a lot of issues we pointed out over the last season plus regarding this Ravens team. There's been a lot, and I mean a lot of issues the Ravens have dealt with this season. With the blown leads, failing to execute, the inconsistent play calling, the bad plays, there have been so many bad things that have happened, and the fan base seems fed up. I understand that. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that. But listen to me. Just for today, just for this moment, let's put all that negativity aside and enjoy this moment because the Baltimore Ravens have officially clinched a playoff spot. That's right. The Ravens have made the playoffs for the first time since 2020. They will be in the postseason competing for a championship, and honestly, we'll just see what happens there. So let's get right into it. Oh boy, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So Ravens flock. The Ravens are in the playoffs. How about that? How about that? How you guys feeling about that? You know, Christmas Eve, by the way, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays to all. Just got to get that out the way first. Back to this. The Ravens played a Christmas Eve game against the Atlanta Falcons in a situation where, in my opinion, it was a must win game. You could not afford to lose this game, in my opinion. You had to win it. You had to win this game given the circumstances. Your final two games are against division rivals. You need to win this game if you want to make the playoffs, especially because we understood that the Jets already lost and the Patriots could lose in this game. You win this game, you're most likely in. And that's exactly what the Ravens did. They handled their business. They got into the playoffs. And this was important because me personally, I said this just before the game happened. I was on Twitter and I tweeted this. I said that good teams find ways to win games like this. I don't care about the circumstances. I don't care that there's no Lamar Jackson. I don't care about the injuries. You are going up against an inferior Atlanta Falcons team that is starting a rookie quarterback. This is not Marcus Mariota. This is a rookie quarterback playing for an inferior team. You have no excuses. You know the game plan. Run the football, play dominant defense, get it done. Don't turn the ball over. This felt like an old school Ravens game. This felt like a 2002 type of Ravens game because they were just running the ball and playing dominant defense. The defense forced a turnover while the Ravens offense continued to capitalize by running the ball and running the ball. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards running the ball effectively, getting things done. And at the end of the day, they were able to put points on the board. They were actually able to get a touchdown in this game too. You know, there wasn't a lot of throwing, but there was two plays, two great throws. The first throw was that 40-yard play to Sammy Watkins. Welcome back, Sammy. And the second one was a touchdown catch by Demarcus Robinson to give the receiving corps their first receiving touchdown since week 3 of the NFL season. That just goes to show you how we really value the wide receiving position. Really? You haven't had none of the receivers have had a touchdown reception since week 3? We are in week 16. And now it's wow, that's just crazy. It takes this long, honestly, but it is what it is. We're not here to think about the negative. We're here to think about the positive. The Ravens were able to get it done. They didn't turn the ball over on offense. They forced a turnover defensively on a fumble by Marlon Humphrey, who just straight up, he got that fruit punch. He got that fruit punch. We've been talking about it. We've been talking about it, man. He got to bring the fruit punch back, and he brought it back. He brought it back for Christmas, man. He brought it back, and that was a big play there to just stop the momentum of the Falcons. The Ravens also made a stop at the goal line on 4th down to force a turnover on down. So they made multiple stops. They continue to do well. The fumble actually happened on 4th down. So they forced a turnover on 4th down, and then they forced a turnover on downs on 4th down. So the defense was there all day, getting the job done, doing what they need to do, getting business done. That's what we wanted to see. The Ravens invested in this defense. We needed to see them show up and dominate this game, and boy, did they do that. Offensively, there's not much to say about the pass game. We talked about the 2 plays, the 2 throws that were great. Other than that, there wasn't really anything there. Huntley only completed 9 passes. It was about the running game. Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins were running the hell out of the football, picking up first downs, moving the chains, making plays. Your dynamic duo in that running back room is still great, and they're still being effective, and they're still doing what we need them to do. So, yeah, you did everything you needed to do. You ran the ball effectively. You didn't force a turnover. You didn't force the ball, which would lead to a turnover. You actually forced a turnover on defense. You made stops on fourth down. You didn't give up a touchdown. Everything we needed the Ravens to do in this game, they managed to do. And that is what a good team is supposed to do. Now, I've never denied the Ravens. I've never denied them by saying that they're not a good team. I said they're not a great team, and because they're not a great team, I didn't consider them a Super Bowl contending team because great teams find a way to finish these type of games against top tier contenders consistently. We blew it against top tier contenders, and we don't have to go back into it. But that's a big part of why I said they weren't a great team. But that doesn't mean they can't be a good team and still be able to get to the playoffs and compete. You can be a good team. We've seen good teams get to the playoffs that aren't Super Bowl contending teams heading into the postseason, and they end up going on a run. The 2011 Giants are the perfect example. 9-7, they went all the way to the Super Bowl. That offense of theirs was not great. Eli Manning was just turning the ball over like crazy with his picks. We understand that. They managed to pull it off. And I get it. That doesn't mean that type of year is going to happen for us this year. For all we know, we could be one and done in the playoffs. I don't know. But we're not here to talk about what could happen. We can only talk about what did happen. And what did happen is the Ravens won the game they needed to win, and now they're in the playoffs. So no matter what happens for these final two games, they will be in the postseason. So again, credit to the Ravens defense for being dominant. Credit to the Ravens run game for doing what they need to do. Credit to Tyler Huntley for not forcing the ball because we don't need turnovers for no reason. And just credit to the team for coming together and winning a game that they are expected to win, and they should win, and they have to win if they wanted to make the playoffs. Good on the team. One positive I will point out, penalties wasn't an issue in this game. That is a huge positive considering for much of the season, penalties have been a major issue for the Ravens. We didn't have delayed game issues. There wasn't false start issues. There wasn't illegal formation issues. The offense stayed relatively clean with penalties in this game. So you have to give them credit. They did their job. They understood they needed to keep things very simple and just do the very basic things against an inferior Falcons team. Don't overlook them, but you still got to be able to do your job properly. And everybody did their job. That's all you needed. Everybody did their job. And because everybody did their job, the Ravens are now in the playoffs. So when you look at it at the end of the day, things have been tough, but the Ravens have found ways to win football games against maybe somewhat inferior competition, but they found ways to win football games without Lamar Jackson. As opposed to last year, where they were trying and they were coming up short and failing to get it done. Granted, again, the difference between last year and this year you're going up against somewhat inferior competition, whereas last year you were taking on contending teams such as the Rams and the Packers, and that was not a good look at all. But it's just different. You were dealing with Super Bowl contending teams. In fact, you took on Cincinnati that went on to the Super Bowl. You took on the Rams that went on to the Super Bowl. You took on a lot of contending teams in those final games without Lamar Jackson, and that hurt, which is a big part of why you guys didn't win those games. But this year you weren't going up against that type of competition, so you were able to deal with it and move forward. Speaking of Lamar Jackson, his situation becomes very interesting. And I also tweeted this. With the Ravens now clinching a playoff spot, they have no need to rush Lamar Jackson back. He suffered a PCL sprain back on December 4th of this month. And he's been gone for the last 3 weeks. It's an injury that lasts 1 to 3 weeks. That's the healing time. 1 to 3 weeks. By week 4, he should be good to go to start practicing. But if I'm the Ravens, I can be extra cautious. Now that you've clinched a playoff spot, you can be extra cautious with how you handle the Lamar Jackson situation. Now I get it. Obviously, the division's still on the table. Cincinnati has a 1-game lead against us. But next week, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have the Buffalo Bills. If the Ravens beat the Steelers and the Bills beat the Bengals, Week 18 will be a game for the division. And in a game like that, you want to have Lamar Jackson show up. And with that still being on the table, would you feel comfortable with putting out there Tyler Huntley to try to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers at home in Week 17? Would you be comfortable? Because that's going to be a home game in Baltimore, so it wouldn't be a terrible thing to sit back and say you could put Tyler Huntley out there. It just depends on how they feel and how they want to handle Lamar Jackson's situation. I don't don't think it's an issue if the Ravens decide to not play Lamar until Week 18, or hell, if they choose not to play him until the playoff game. I don't think people will have a lot of issues. Though I will caution not to put Lamar Jackson, not to wait until Lamar Jackson is health. I'm not even say that. I'm gonna caution and say you don't want to wait to play Lamar in the playoffs because I don't want Lamar's first game back after missing so many games to be in the postseason when we have to win. You would rather have him come back at least week 18 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Whether you win or lose, whether it's for the division, who the hell knows? But that week 18 game will give Lamar at least one game to get the rust off, get himself back into the field of the season. And by then, you can head into the playoffs with Lamar being a little bit more comfortable as opposed to just throwing him into the fire in a wild card game against who the hell you're going to play. We're the fifth seed right now, so it would be the Jacksonville Jaguars because the Titans just lost. So the Jaguars right now, if the season ends today, we would be heading to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars in the wild card round, which would be great because I would love a rematch against them. But yeah, looking at the situation here, the Ravens can be very cautious with how they handle the Lamar Jackson situation, and I think they're going to be. I would not be surprised if Lamar Jackson is not out there for that Week 17 matchup against the Steelers. I would be surprised if he's not out there Week 18 against the Bengals, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's not out there Week 17. So we'll see what happens here. Anyway, in terms of this game, Baltimore did what they needed to do. They got the job done, ran the ball effectively. Glad to have this dynamic duo in J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. I would love to see them alongside Lamar Jackson at some point. Please at least be in the playoffs where we get to see this trio together and we can run the hell out of the football against any team. So I would love to see that happen. The defense is doing their job. They're playing well, but there were some issues here in terms of stopping the run, which is why missing Calais Campbell definitely didn't hurt. But those guys, rest them up until the playoffs. You don't need to rush Calais Campbell. You don't need to rush Marcus Peters. They can come back in the wild card round and it will be perfectly fine. So yeah, Baltimore can play around. Now that you've clinched a playoff spot, you can play around with how you handle these injury situations. You don't have to throw them into the fire next week. You can wait until the wild card round. I wouldn't wait for Lamar in the wild card round, but I would say week 18, more around that area. But you could if you wanted to. With Calais Campbell and Marcus Peters, though, wait until the wild card round. Wait until the playoffs. Give them that extra time to rest and be 100% healthy because they can come back in and do their thing immediately. But a quarterback, you got to give him at least a game before he heads back into the playoffs. Don't just throw him in cold in a playoff game. Nah. Give him a little bit of time. Give him at least that one game to get into some sort of rhythm, and you're going to be fine. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Ravens have officially clinched a playoff spot. They will be in the wild card round no matter what happens, be it a home playoff game or an away playoff game, and we'll just see what happens. At the end of the day, as long as you get into the tournament, anything can happen. We literally saw the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that did not look like they would go the distance. They literally went the distance and got to the Super Bowl. Anything can happen when you get to the Super Bowl. We will see if that happens for the Ravens this year. But with that being said, that is all I've got, and I am out of here. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays. Peace out.